today we're gonna be making some cheese scones. Now, if there was one thing that I would sort of pinpoint that really changed my ability to reliably make sourdough bread, it's actually figuring out that I can use the sourdough starter in a number of other things. Because, sometimes you don't really need bread or you don't want bread and you need another way to use it rather than just throwing it down the sink, leaving it in your fridge. You want a nice active starter, so feeding it regularly really helps that. And while you absolutely can leave it in the fridge for a week at a time, feeding, just when you need to make bread, you're not gonna get the most active starter. The other thing is that of course I have 3 kids and I have a house full of people all the time. And sometimes you need bread, but you don't want to wait for sourdough. So that's where recipes for discard really come in, because you can still use your starter, and by adding some bicarbonate of soda or what do Americans call it? Baking soda. I'm American, I didn't remember. Or baking powder, or a combination of the two. You can use your starter, you get that lovely sourdough flavor, but you don't have to wait for it. This recipe calls for 150 grams of grated cheddar cheese, 230 grams of plain flour, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of bicarb of soda or baking soda, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 125 grams of cold butter, 200 grams of cold 100% hydration starter, and 120 grams of milk or buttermilk. So today we're going to be making some cheese scones or biscuits if you're American. And this recipe is super easy, and I kid you not, it is one of the sort of 3 recipes that if I were to die, this would be my legacy. So to make the scones, you're gonna start with 230 grams of plain flour. Then you're going to add your bicarb and your baking soda into the flour, as well as your salt and your butter. Then what you're gonna do is you're going to use your fingers and squish up the dough. Just like you would do with a pastry or anything, you're gonna break up that butter so that it looks like crumbles. It should resemble coarse breadcrumbs at this stage. So once that's done, then what you're gonna do is you're gonna go ahead and add your cheese. Now, I've used 150 grams of cheese here, just a nice sharp cheddar. You could easily get away with more, up to 200 grams. It's delicious. Also, at this point, if you wanna add in any herbs or 100 grams of cooked chopped broccoli, goes really, really well with the scones. I have a recipe on our blog that is for wild greens, and it's a very similar makeup, also great. So add in your cheese and give it a bit of a mix. Then, once it sort of is all mixed together, I just give it a bit of a stir. And then you're going to add your buttermilk or regular milk. Now mine does actually happen to be buttermilk because we make butter, but you don't have to. Yogurt actually works really nice. My kids really like it with yogurt as well, just a plain yogurt as opposed to a Greek yogurt because you need some of that moisture. And then you're going to add your 200 grams of 100% hydration starter. This is just a starter that I haven't fed in a few days, so it's just, needed to be discarded and moved on to something else so I could refeed the starter for making bread for later in the week. Then what you're gonna do is you're just gonna mix it all together. This recipe fits perfectly into a 12-tin muffin tray. So I just go ahead and butter the muffin tins in a muffin tin. Then I just use an old butter wrapper to butter the slots. This works perfectly. This recipe is sized to actually fit in here. All right. You want the muffins tins just full, not overfilled, because I do rise a fair bit. Now your oven will vary, but mine I bake at about 180 degrees Celsius for about 10 minutes. But you need to keep an eye on them because, as I've said many times before, my oven is basically thermonuclear and yeah, has been known to set things on fire. So yeah, use your own discretion. If you want to roll them out or cut them into wedges like American scones, you can do that. And yeah, they're really delicious. We love these with tomato soup or just a great after-school snack, which is what they're gonna be today.